I think a few weeks ago we had news from Bloomberg saying that the Philippines is most at risk in ASEAN from China-US trade war. But if you ask me, I don't agree with that. Okay, Bloomberg highlighted the chart on the left. They said that 16.9% of what we export is used in the manufacture of goods that China exports. First of all, I don't even agree that that much goes to the manufacture of goods because we only export 11% or 11% of our exports go to China. So paano nangyaring 16.9? I think what is more relevant is what does this translate to as a percentage of GDP? Remember that the Philippines is not very dependent on exports. Exports only accounts for around 18% of our GDP. If we translate exports to China's value chain as a percentage of GDP, it's only 3.2% of the Philippines. So I don't think we'll be affected too much by China-US trade war. Despite all the bad news that is being highlighted every day by all the bears in the market, marami ring good news na hindi na-highlight ng mga analysts. Okay, first of all, Meralco announced that sales volume increased by 7% during the first quarter. On the average, Meralco's sales volume will grow by 4 to 5%. The last time it hit mga 7 to 8% was in 2016 when there was elections. A 7% growth in electricity consumption is an advanced indicator that the economy is doing well. Okay. So that kind of supports our thesis that the first quarter GDP will be strong, consumer spending will not collapse, contrary to what the market seems to imply. Okay, so earlier on we talked about the possible risk that tax collections could be weak, execution of the tax reform could be bad. But the BIR during the first quarter said that they collected 361.8 billion pesos in tax revenues, which is 16.8% above target. I've been an analyst for more than 20 years and consistently every year, BIR collects below the target. One of the few times that I've seen them actually exceed their collection targets. So for me, that's very good news. Di ba nga earlier on, we talked about twin deficit. Yan yung isang deficit. They're saying with the government now spending more on infrastructure, there's a possibility that the deficit of the government versus revenues would be ballooning. No? So that's the twin deficit. That's the second deficit. Nakita natin, parang isa lang ang deficit, hindi twin. Kasi the government is actually collecting more. Okay? And they're actually executing on their plans, which is to improve the infrastructure. Okay? Infra and other capital outlays from January to February is up by 34.6%. Okay? So that's actually very good news, no? For us. So a lot of good news also out there, just totally being ignored by the market. Everybody's just focused on inflation going up, interest rates going up. But, let's have a balanced view about everything. Okay, so I think this is a source of a lot of confusion. Valuations. Are we expensive or are we cheap? Okay, so this is a PE band. So when we say it's a PE band, it just says that during the past 10 years, ano ba yung valuation na tinitrade ng index natin? Look at the line in between. It just means that during the past 10 years, the PSEI traded within this band around 68 to 70% of the time. Parang 18.4 on the high end, 12.4 on the low end. Okay, so of course you would want something closer to 12.4, di ba? A few months ago, I came out with a report saying that, I think the market is already attractive at 7,900 because it's already 18 times PE, which, if you look at the 5-year time horizon, that's the average PE of the market. But I'd like to highlight why I think that, we're sticking to what we're saying that the market is cheap, no? I mean, if you look here, for example, we're close to the mid-range already of the 10 years, which for me is already very attractive, no? And the reason why I don't think we should use 10 years, although I did use 10 years just for the sake of argument, so you can see it, is because 10 years ago, you will see that a very big index heavyweight is PLDT, okay, a utility company. This time around, who are the index heavyweights? You have SM, SM Prime, okay, BDO, ganyan. So in other words, ang mga utility companies kasi, ang average PE niyan, they're just in the teens or even 10 times, 11 times. That's just the nature of the business because utility companies grow very slow. So they will never trade at, say, 20 times PE. But on the other hand, right now, since you have SM, SM Prime, and all the other more consumer-oriented companies, these companies trade at 20 times PE, 30 times PE, no? They're more expensive kasi consumer companies are faster growing, di ba? Branding is more important. So yon. That's why I think, we should be willing to pay a little bit more for stocks today if we just look at it from an index perspective because the weights are different. Yung laman nun iba na.